Welcome to highlights from the Sustainable Energy for All Forum, a global gathering brought to Africa for the first time. It offered a platform to discuss and further comprehensive multi-stakeholder collaborations for reducing the energy gap and accelerating clean energy transition globally.
So there's been lots of conversations about access to electricity, which is kind of key, and kind of reaching those rural populations and providing different solutions for different settings. I think that's where we see the kind of key aims and focus that need to be moving forward.
The humanitarian response, the energy sector, the private sector, the donors, to sit down and really make sure there is the policy and actually the resources to be able to enable the right type of energy access and to really meet what people need. And I think actually what's left out of the conversation are the real refugee communities. And so I think bringing them really to the forefront of the table is really what's needed. So we did have a session here yesterday. We had a wonderful refugee representative who shared her perspective. So I think that's also needed a lot more.
As we go towards COP27, my view is climate finance will be important, grants, but we will need to have a loss and damage facility. I mean, there's a reason why we are where we are. Climate change, global warming, is because of emissions of specific countries over centuries. And now Africa has to borrow to correct problems that Africa didn't create. Yeah. So I just think there is a moral obligation on the part of the biggest emitters to help us transition.
Held in Kigali, Rwanda for 3 days, the Sustainable Energy for All Forum was attended by leaders of industry, humanitarian organizations, global alliances and governments.
In many countries, solar and wind are already the cheapest source of energy, and the renewable energy sector generates 3 times as many jobs as the fossil fuel sector. We need to shift to sustainable energy systems everywhere. Developed countries must honor their promise to provide $100 billion a year for climate action in developing countries. Development banks must support countries as they transition their economies, invest in retraining and social safety nets. And private finance must stop funding fossil fuels and shift to renewable energies. Every country, city, company and organization should set ambitious renewable energy targets and present their implementation plans for clean and affordable energy through ambitious energy compacts. Together, let us pursue an agenda that is good for both people and planet and build a sustainable, just and equitable energy future for all.
President Paul Kagame addressed the forum and shed light on the scale and urgency of improving energy access and ensuring energy transition in Africa.
Today, in Africa, more than 500 million people still do not have access to electricity. This energy crisis coincides with the threat of climate change, to which our continent is especially vulnerable. Switching to renewable energy is crucial. That is why creating an enabling environment to attract investment in sustainable energy is so important. By integrating sustainable energy in pandemic recovery plans, we can accelerate the transition to clean power. But the transition must be just and equitable. The diverse group of stakeholders attending this forum is a demonstration of the level of partnership required to get the job done for our communities and our planet.
The CEO for Sustainable Energy for All Forum took to the stage to introduce the theme of the event and to highlight the key areas of focus over the next 3 days.
Our theme for this forum is driving bold action for a people-centered energy transition, which is inspired by 2 key messages that underpin our work at Sustainable Energy for All, and I'm sure will resonate with you here today. One, people must be at the heart of the energy transition. Our energy future must be clean, but it must also be just, inclusive, and equitable. We must bring electricity and clean cooking to billions of people so they can have access to the same economic and social opportunities as those who already have abundant energy supply. And two, bold and urgent action is needed to end energy poverty and secure climate justice for billions of people around the world. We must act now to save our planet from climate change, and we must also protect the most vulnerable from its effects.
Along with improving access to clean, reliable and affordable power, Transition to Clean Cooking Fuels movement received much deserved attention at the forum.
Clean cooking is an enormously complex issue. There is no one-size-fits-all solution or a set of policy guidelines that you could issue to every country to be able to easily pursue a clean cooking transition. The Clean Cooking Alliance works very closely with governments and partners to create an enabling environment that supports the growth of a sector that can deliver clean cooking solutions to all. And part of that is really honoring the self-determination of national governments to be able to create clean cooking transitions that best suit their local context.
It means that we are investing in innovation, we're investing in solutions. So maybe a solution that works in Asia may not work in Africa. We cook differently in Africa than in Asia. So how we invested in technology to help us, and also prioritization of the subject. There's funding for so many other things, but not cooking. Well, we've done a lot, but we could do so much better. Most important thing also, we shouldn't think about it as a cooking issue. We should think about it as an issue that affects all the aspects of our well-being. So as you said, health, education, and all the SDGs that we're trying very hard to achieve, the clean cooking cuts across. So all the people who have to put their funds towards the development agencies, the government, should not think of it as a cooking situation. And also there should be collaboration between agencies. I find that from the work I've done, some of the problems is that it's usually under the energy ministry, but there are health implications. So you need to engage with the health ministry or the environment ministry. So we have to talk to each other. We have to collaborate. But most important, as Jeline said, we have to prioritize clean cooking.
Climate finance is one of the key hurdles to achieving SDG 7 goal, especially among lower income regions of the world, and philanthropic capital for building quality energy access and catalyzing clean energy transition in the recent years is showing greater promise than ever before.
So for example, today we announced at this forum, the SEforALL forum, again, another pilot that SEforALL have been working on with partners, creating financial solutions for these off-grid developers that need to purchase their equipment. That has been piloted in 3 countries. It's proving successful. It's given us some learnings of how to adjust it. And we've just announced today a further funding support to scale that up. So success comes, we feel, from figuring out these solutions, getting them working, and then you put your foot on the accelerator.
There's a requirement to accelerate access to renewable energy by developing programs and de-risking those programs to take it to a point where other investors can come in and take it to the next scale. So that's one thing. The second thing is really about taking that risk and showing what works and what doesn't work, and making those early risky investments and demonstrate, take learnings and demonstrate how you can do this in a way that's over time is going to be able to scale and be attractive for other capital investors to come in and take it to a different level. Then philanthropy can go back and focus on something else. And I think it's really the last part is how we collaborate to drive that scaling, how we bring other partners in, governments, institutional investors, to come in after we have demonstrated what works, and therefore make it possible to gather a much larger group of people who can take it to a much higher scale than otherwise would be possible.
Equitable and just access to climate finance is one of the most underserved areas of energy transition. making the conversation of who pays the bill even more important before COP27 at the forum.
But the second thing is we all have to be more intelligent about the nature of how we solve the problem. So the 100 billion is a promise that was made in 2009. It has to be delivered. That's a covenant of trust, Alok Sharma calls it. And it wasn't delivered, the plan that's been presented is to deliver it on average in this 5-year period. Okay, so we need to see that and have an update on that in Glasgow. But actually, 100 billion does not solve the problem.
Exactly.
This is about $2 trillion a year more that we need by 2030, and the evidence that we have that Glasgow Finance Alliance published is that about 70% of that needs to come from the private sector. So we have to create the right conditions with international finance. We need more of it. I think we need a lot more of it, and actually it's in the interests of the developed countries to have more of a Marshall Plan mentality. But we also need that, whatever it is, it won't be enough. It needs to be leveraged more. So every dollar of international finance needs to generate $2, $3, $4, $5 of private finance. And so we need to think more about how do we use the limited international finance to de-risk. The other thing we need to do is, and Christine Duarte talked about it yesterday, we need to be honest about some of the wasted money in some economies in the global south through inefficiency or through corruption. Because that's a missed opportunity, and people don't want to invest in an economy that doesn't look like the money will do. And the other thing it's got to do is recognise that there's vibrant private sectors here. And that's why one of the young entrepreneurs on the panel. And so we need to really mobilise that vibrant private sector, and I think have more of a narrative of opportunity and inviting in investment than demanding handouts. So I think it's complicated, right? Because there's a genuine historical injustice, right, and a responsibility from the global north to address that. But there's also the realpolitik of what's really needed is to mobilise a lot of finance, and most of that finance will be private, and it will go to where it sees dynamism and opportunity. And I think the exciting thing here is that there's a lot of a focus on opportunity. You know, whether it's clean cooking stoves, whether it's more productive use for solar through solar irrigation, or whether it's solar as a source of reliable energy for schools and hospitals. So this is really becoming a conversation about opportunity, about deals, and about how we finance deals, rather than abstract targets.
This year, the Sustainable Energy for All Forum saw several announcements, declarations of commitments, partnerships, and discourse over some uncomfortable topics, like who should pay for climate change, corruption in governance, and the viability of clean energy economic models. But these harder questions and the multilateral approach to universal, clean, affordable, and reliable energy access is what the Forum stands for, to turn this global vision into reality. That was all from SEforALL Highlights. Thanks for watching.